YouTube. Okay, let me begin by saying, excuse my messy bun. Okay, now second, I want to say rest in peace to Prince and to China, the WWE wrestler. If you grew up watching wrestling like myself, then you know exactly who I'm talking about. So rest in peace to the two of them, and my condolences go to their family. Okay, so let's get into the review. Empire, Season 2, Episode 14, titled Time Shall Unfold, something like that. Okay, so much happened in this episode. In this episode, we find out that if you had any doubts that Lucius was not the devil, well, those doubts have been like laid to rest. He is for sure the devil. Lucius stands for Lucifer, okay? Lucius, aka Lucifer. Okay, with that being said, let's dig right on in. I'm sure I won't go in order, but bear with me. Okay, so we see on Empire that Rhonda is staying with Anika. And Anika appears to be, fairly normal. They're getting along well. And Dre shows up. Dre lets Rhonda know that he hasn't been staying at the house either. He's been staying in a hotel. Rhonda doesn't want to go back to the house because, of course, there's bad memories there. So they decide, he kind of wants to work it out with her. She's not quite sure. She just wants to go back to when she was most happy, which is when they were being like the manipulative, conniving, evil, just messed up, weird, freaky couple. So, of course, we all know he's going to consider that. Okay, they hear Anika throwing up in the background, and this is the big pregnancy reveal. I'm pregnant with Hakeem's baby. Okay, speaking of babies, we see at some point during the episode Thirsty, which is the little crooked lawyer, Lucius's crooked lawyer. He goes and he sees Lola, which was Raven-Symoné's daughter, on the playground. Says hi to her, grabs a piece of her hair. Of course, we know that has to be for DNA testing. Now, I thought that we had concluded that Lola was Lucius's daughter. So there's questions about that towards the end of the episode. But anywho, so we see Thirsty doing all this sneaky stuff. Thirsty also he pulls up with some guys. They put on black masks. They go into Lion's Dynasty and they steal out all the Antony and Cleopatra clothing. Of course, that's the clothing that is supposed to be revealed and showcased at the showcase for all the shareholders. Okay, so basically we see that Lucius is trying to put a wrench in the plan for Hakeem so that it can show that he's not a competent CEO or that he is not running the business well. Okay, with that being said, of course, he's preparing for this. Jamal has been preparing with Frida all episode, all these different songs, and shockingly enough, these songs sound really good. Now, they sound really good with the mix of rap and singing. Okay, but as we all know, Cookie doesn't want Frida to work with any of her sons because she figures if Frida finds out that Lucius killed Frank Gathers, then Frida will be ruthless. With that being said, we see at one point during the episode, Frida is a barber. She cuts hair. Who would have known? Anyways, so she's at the barbershop cutting hair. Her dad had a station in the barbershop. They just leave that station open. Nobody sits there, just in remembrance of her father. Well, somebody comes in and they sit in that chair and she pistol whips him and whoops him and nobody even says anything. Because I guess Frida is not the one to be messing with. So I guess that was the show's way of showing us that, hey, she doesn't play. Cookie should be nervous for her sons. For that reason, Cookie sets it up so that this rapper, I forget what the rapper's name is, but she's kind of like somewhat like Nicki Minaj, but she's also has like a really girly side to her too. Maybe a mix of like your favorite female rappers. She's all that mixed in, and she has a really good flow. She's really big. She's really big internationally. To Jamal, this would be great to have her on his album, especially before the Acer Awards. Okay, so because he is trying to beat his dad. His dad has the song out now with the story of his life and his mother and the suicide and the mental health awareness and all of that. So it's really hard to beat that Dwight Walker video that everyone is chatting about around town. Luckily, Jamal has the opportunity to record with this artist. Well, he's a little disappointed because the artist has an exclusivity contract, meaning that you can't have any more rappers, especially female rappers, on your album if she's going to be on your album. So, with that being said, he feels bad. He needs to break the news to Frida. Now, him and Frida, they have been producing Music Magic, similar to Cookie and Lucius. But it's all for the point of winning and getting Lucius back by beating him out in this award. So, with that being said, Jamal feels like I gotta do what I gotta do. Okay. We do realize that at some point Andre is talking to Lucius. We're very confused, like, when did you guys start talking? But Andre, he kind of doesn't know what to think at this point. He's vulnerable. So Lucius is using this as an opportunity to get to him because Lucius needs Andre on his side if he really wants to take down Hakeem. So we see Lucius and Andre at the grave site. We see the grave, which is Lucius's mother's grave, Leah Walker. Okay, and then he is like, really, this seems to be a touching moment. He's really connecting with Andre, and he's saying, I'm really proud of you and what you become and all this. And Andre is like, okay, what's the catch? And he said, no, there's no catch. I'm telling you, this woman, some days it just be like living in misery all day with her, and she was just so abusive and crazy and wild. And then the next moment, she could make it be sunshine at midnight. I mean, it was crazy being with this lady. It hurt me in a lot of ways, and it helped me in a lot of ways. And those parts of me that hurt, I think by working with you, I could get past that hurt. And Andre is saying, well, I can relate because Rhonda says the exact same thing about me. It's crazy living with me. But I wish that my grandma would have been able to live even longer, because medicine nowadays, she would have been able to live out her life dreams, and she could have, advanced so much even with her mental illness. Okay, well, with that being said, he decides to, Lucius kind of puts it out there that he needs his help. And Andre says, well, I don't want to go against my brothers. He said, oh, no, I'm not trying to question your religion. I'm not going to make you do anything to go against your religion. And I'm thinking he didn't say anything about his religion. But of course, then Andre was like, well, I don't really know. I'm a bit shaky on that, too. So then Lucius makes it even worse. And then he says, of course, because why would you love a God or believe a God that would allow this to happen and this to happen and this to happen? He's really just trying to get into his head. As I said, Andre is vulnerable. So Andre is just like, hey, what do you want me to do? We will move back up to the top and we will make Empire a great place again. Okay, so of course Andre is working behind the scenes. He messes up some deal with Swiftstream, and as we know, the clothing line, that stuff is gone. Hakeem cannot hold it together at this point. He is flipping out during meetings. Cookie doesn't know what to do because all she's trying to do is bring her family back together, and it is not working. Okay, well, with that being said, then all of a sudden, we have the shareholders meeting. At the shareholders meeting, we see Tiana performing, and they weren't able to introduce the Antony and Cleopatra line because, of course, it was stolen. So then it's time for Hakeem to take the mic and the shareholders to ask him questions. He was able to answer them just fine. Then Lucius gets up because he owns a part in the company. So he gets up and he asks questions. The first question, Hakeem answered it no problem. The second question, he really starts digging into him and asking him about the clothing line and asking him about Swiftstream. And basically every time Hakeem didn't have an answer, he's like, I don't know right now. I got to get back to you. Oh, we've had some difficulties with this. And then Lucius is using the people around him and basically showing how it's affecting their pockets financially with Hakeem being CEO. And he is just, Lucius says the line, well, any competent CEO would be able to answer these questions. And so he's kind of like embarrassing him in front of everybody. With that being said, all of a sudden the shareholders start to agree on the fact that they don't need Hakeem, they need Lucius. So then Cookie comes up and she says, well, they can run this company together, they can be great, they care so much about this company and saving you guys' money and all this and that. So then, of course, later on after that, the board decides to get rid of Hakeem as CEO altogether. And then Lucius rubs it in his face by saying, yeah, I mean, you can tell your kids that you ran Empire for all of 10 minutes. Okay, speaking of his kids, at one point during the episode, Rhonda and Andre, they bring Anika to the house. Anika announces to everyone that she's pregnant, and it's Hakeem's baby. And Cookie is so mad. She's like, oh my gosh, do you not know how to wear condoms? And she said, well, I haven't been with anybody else since Lucius, which sounds really bad. Okay, and then she's like, they start talking about, well, the baby's going to be the heir to the throne. Well, then they start to question, Jamal starts to question, well, what about Lola? Technically, she's the heir to the throne. And Lucius says, no, we got Lola tested. I'm not her father. You're not her father. It's some guy named such and such in whatever state. Okay, craziness. So anyway, Lucius pops up at Anika's house randomly after she makes the announcement, and he basically tells her, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take your prenatal pills, you're going to have that baby, and you're going to leave the baby with us, and I will give you $10 million to disappear. And then she said, no, I don't want that. I told you and the entire family, all I want was for my baby to have a family and a supportive, loving family. And I'm thinking, Anika, you dated this man for I don't know how long. You know that they are not a normal, functioning, loving family. I don't even understand why you want this to be the family that you want your baby to be a part of. He's ruthless to his own children. What in the world? This makes no sense. Okay, well, whatever. With that being said, he's like, okay, well, I'm telling you, some mothers don't survive childbirth, so you need to think about that. Lucius is ruthless, as I said. So, this is the big shocker of the episode. Really threw me off. All of a sudden, we see Thirsty go into a nursing home, and he is talking to the nurse at the front desk, and then he asked about Leah Walker, and I'm thinking, isn't that Lucius's mama's name? I knew they showed us her grave for a long time for some reason. So then all of a sudden, the nurse says, oh, she's doing fine. Would you like to see Miss W? And then he says, no, no, no. And then he slips her some money in an envelope, basically like hush money, keep quiet. Because as we all know, Lucius's video, his music video is out here that the town is buzzing about. And everybody's thinking his mother had a mental illness and she killed herself. And this is how he lived such a hard life and came up with the name Lucius Lyon. Okay, but what in the world? Leah Walker is sitting in the nursing home, humming the same tune that we hear her hum in the flashbacks. So then it zooms up on her face, and she's much older at this point, and I'm like, Lucius, you done did it again. You done lied to Cookie's face, and you have lied to everybody, to America, and they're thinking that your mother has killed herself. Meanwhile, she is sitting there in the nursing home, and all it takes is for one of them to leak the story that your mother is still living, and then you're done for. And I'm thinking, you know how much money you could get out of that just by selling that story, and you're going to accept this little change from Thirsty? That story is going to get out eventually. And I would like to see how this is going to play out. But you seriously took Andre to a fake grave. Who is even in that grave? You know, Lucius probably just paid for the grave and nobody's in it. But you took him to a grave, really had him thinking that he was talking to his grandmother, him hoping that she was still alive so that she could live a good life like he's living right now. But instead, you've got him on your side. Now he's turned back to the dark side, and Rhonda is happy about it. And you are basically on your way back to being CEO. And I'm like, Lucifer. Okay, well, whatever. With that being said, please like, comment, and subscribe, and check